Good morning, it's January 8th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Now that the 24 elections are over, both parties can start preparing for the next round of elections and looking down the road at future elections. The Democrats are in total disarray, and while pointing the finger at people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're going to have to decide if they want to stay on their progressive agenda that's turned off so many voters or move to more moderate policies. And coming into the elections, most analysts felt there was a reasonable chance that Trump would win the Electoral College. All he had to do was gain a small majority in the key swing states. What he accomplished stunned all of them. He not only won the swing states, he also won the popular vote, something no Republican has done for 20 years. This is because the deep blue states of California, New York, and Illinois could be counted on to pile up large majorities in the popular vote and deliver that win to the Democratic candidate. For years, Democrats have had a better ground game when it came to registering and getting out the vote. They have far outpaced the Republicans in the critical swing states. But in the last 2 years, the pendulum has begun to swing. Republicans have adapted to the new political scene and started outpacing Democrats when it comes to registering voters. One of the most surprising outcomes on Election Day 2024 was Donald Trump's landslide 56% to 43% victory over Kamala Harris in Florida. That's a 13-point margin, was an enormous shift from Trump's 3-point victory there in 2020. And it was the largest victory for any candidate since 1988. Trump's victory notably comes on the heels of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis also winning re-election by a wide margin in 2022, and strong gains for GOP candidates up and down the ballot. Now, there are reasons out there for this surge in support for Republicans. You have right-leaning voters moving into the state. You have a realignment of Hispanic voters in the state, and more than likely the satisfaction of the voters with the policies that allowed the Florida state economy to flourish, due in large part to Governor DeSantis refusing to shut the state down during the pandemic. As recently as 2020, Democrats held an edge in voter registration of about 97,000 of Republicans in the Sunshine State. By April 2024, Republicans not only took the lead, they increased their advantage to more than 1 million voters. Throughout the rest of the country, Republican gain in voter registration numbers also coincided with GOP victories. Perhaps the most notable state where this was the case was Pennsylvania. Like Florida, prior to 2020, Pennsylvania Democrats had held a significant voter registration lead over Republicans for years. And just prior to the 2016 election, that lead was more than 911,000 voters statewide. By November 2024, however, that lead had been cut all the way down to 281,000. Trump won Pennsylvania by nearly 3 points, and Republican Dave McCormick unseated incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey, whom many pundits believe would be unbeatable and just cruise to re-election. If the current trajectory of the state continues, Pennsylvania could well become the next Florida in terms of voter registration numbers that are flipping the other way. Republicans also cut into Democrats' registered voter lead in Nevada, another state that Trump flipped from 2020. After Democrats held an advantage of 86,000 registrations heading to Election Day, that lead was cut to just under 9,000 votes prior to Election Day 2024. In another sign of just how important the progress was, Republicans held a 49,000 vote advantage after early voting concluded this year. In 2020, Democrats held a pretty big lead in early voting, and that's been changing because Republicans are adapting. In Arizona, another state that Trump flipped last year, Republicans held a voter registration lead of about 300,000 heading into Election Day, nearly double their advantage in 2020. In North Carolina, another swing state, Democrats still went into Election Day with a voter registration edge of about 130,000. But that number was a significant decrease from nearly 400,000 they had in 2020. Trump won North Carolina by just over 3 points. What these numbers tell us is the Republican Party has woken up to the new rules of elections. Their ground game has greatly improved, and they're tapping into the dissatisfaction of voters with the way the country is being run. Joe Biden's approval numbers, along with Kamala Harris, were the canary in the coal mine that Democrats ignored. And looking long range, and by that I mean the 2030 census, the numbers could change dramatically once again and favor Republicans. If the current trends continue, California could lose 4 more seats. New York would lose 3 seats, Illinois 2, and Pennsylvania 1. The gains would be going to states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. Utah, Idaho, Arizona, and Tennessee are on track to pick up a seat. And that's not a good look for Democrats. That's up to 9 electoral votes moving from reliably blue states to mostly red states. So now you understand why Democrats want to open the doors on the border and have more and more illegal immigrants come in. They want to beef up their population in the census and try to hold on to those congressional seats and electoral votes. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the subscribe button.